everyone. Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom Live. I am just going live on Instagram as well. If you'll bear with me for a moment. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Grab some water, excuse me. Oh, okay. We have so much to talk about today, everyone. And it's going to be a serious conversation. I know sometimes our conversations are serious, sometimes they are funny. And today, just take a sip of water here. I'm feeling a little dry, I think from all of the talking, and honestly, emotionally, I feel so depleted. Hi there. Okay. So everyone, grab some water, grab some tea, grab some coffee, get comfortable. And again, thank you for showing up here today. I appreciate you always. And I'm so very grateful for your connection. So today we are going to have a really serious conversation. It's not an easy one to have, and it's my belief that growth comes from what isn't easy. So it's not always comfortable, right? Often it is not comfortable. And you know what? I don't think this country is going to change without discomfort, which is becoming very apparent and very evident on the news. So today's topic, for those of you that have not been with me before, Wednesday Wisdom is an expansion of Every Soul Has a Story, which I started 3 years ago in 2017. It began as a weekly blog. I'm a writer, as many of you know, and it has expanded to meeting in this way every Wednesday on Facebook and Instagram. I am also interviewing other souls. So I've launched my podcast. That's a few months ago. You can check that out on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or my website. And I also now have the Sunday Connection, which is Sunday nature meditation videos from my heart to yours. So I just want to share that before we begin, because first and foremost, I so appreciate you showing up today. By you being here, you are having a commitment to yourself and contributing. I hope in some way you feel you're contributing, even though this format is really strange. I'm a connector, I'm a creator, I'm a writer, and so to just talk to a screen like I'm doing right now is kind of weird for me, because I want to see your faces, I want to touch you, I want to hug you. However, I've decided to embrace this format for the time being because it's about as close as we can get safely, right? So last week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about judgment. Last week, we talked about how do we handle unexpected, intense emotions, always and especially during this time. And really, I think that's a good bridge into our conversation today. And I feel really, I have so many emotions. So let me start with, speaking of unexpected emotions. My son graduated from high school Sunday night. And although that's what I wanted to talk about today, I'm not feeling it. I cried. Yesterday was my birthday. But what keeps coming to me again and again and again is what is going on in our country. And it's not new, sadly. So anyone that, I'm hearing a lot of this, can you believe this is going on in 2020? The answer is yes, it is happening, people. And if you're not aware of it and you don't realize that it is, you need to wake up. So part of my intention with Every Soul Has a Story is to awaken others, and I hope to inspire others and to connect others through words and wisdom and in this forum. So whether it's orally, written, or through stories. So I'm going to do a lot of reading today. It's a different format than usual. I've done a lot of research, and when I spoke about my son's graduation, it was incredible. We cried, we celebrated him in every way that's, again, so not like the norm. But I came home and I was so compelled and magnetized to the news, which, by the way, I typically avoid TV news, which is ironic for a woman who was a reporter, right? It's so toxic for me personally, and that's no judgment with the media, because I still consider myself part of the media and the medium in which I speak and work and write, just in a different format. So I'm not in any way criticizing the media. And before I begin today's conversation, this is not a political rant. This is not a Republican, Democrat, Independent sort of conversation. This is about humanity. Today I'm talking about humanity. And I want you to sit with that word. For me, humanity transcends race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, age, you name it. We are human beings. We are one. And we are so divided. It hurts my heart. So imagine Sunday night, I come home from this amazing celebration with my son, and I plop on the couch, literally, with just all this emotion, and I turn on the news, and honestly, that's why my voice sounds this way today, by the way. I am so energetically and emotionally depleted, distraught. There are no words, quite frankly. I have a migraine right now, and I'm only sharing that because I woke up this morning, like actually 3 a.m, with it going, and I know that's my body's indicator of, whoa, girl, so much going on in head and heart that it starts to manifest in our physical body, right? That's normal. Where else will it go? I've learned that the hard way through some medical things that we're not discussing today. The point is, my head's pounding, and I thought, this is nothing compared to what our Black community is experiencing, what is going on between police officers, many of whom are wonderful humans. I know one very, very well. My cousin is one of the good guys. He's amazing, and yes, he's white. In fact, he stood up and has many times gone to bat for what is wrong, and I'll leave that there. So there's so much that we need to discuss today, and I'm sharing personally where I'm coming from regarding my son's graduation, my birthday, the migraine. That's all superfluous. That really doesn't matter at all, but it gives me perspective, and I hope you, by starting in this way, to what really matters, right? And so we all have our thresholds, right? Some people say, oh, well, having stage 1 cancer, you're so lucky you didn't need chemo. Stage 4, so we can make comparisons all day long, but that's not what I'm here to do, because everyone matters. Every one of you, every person we don't even know, our neighbors, strangers, whether they're in our community, whether they're in our zip code, they matter. They matter, people. And so that is the theme for today. What can we do? I'm hearing a lot of what we can't do. So I want to start with a quote by Nelson Mandela, who I wish I could have met him. What an extraordinary, extraordinary soul. He's one of my inspirations. And I want you to hear this very clearly, and we'll start here. No one is born hating another person because of color of skin, background, or religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. Hate is a learned response to your environment, to personal experiences. Babies enter the world as beautiful, what I see almost as a clean slate. When I was a speech therapist, I used to explain this to parents. It's almost like a CPU of a computer, right? There's a reason most kids don't talk until they're at least 1 year old. Not my kids, because they haven't shut up. My daughter said her first word at 8 months old. Don't know who she got that from. Anyway, so I believe just like children learn language, and that's why they learn first, like computers, they get inputted, then they output, right? So they don't say their first words till they're about 1 year old. Well, similarly, like Nelson Mandela said, we learn hate. Well, then someone's teaching them. Guess who's teaching them, people? Guess who's teaching them, folks? We are, the adults. So that's something I need you to really, really think about one of today's pearls, and I'm wearing this necklace today intentionally. A lot of these are mother of pearl. They're made by a local artist here in Florida. This is one of my favorite pieces I've ever had in my life. I wear it actually quite frequently. And why do I think of pearl? One, its luminescence. Secondly, interesting, I didn't really notice this until this weekend. I was just sort of processing what's going on in our nation and everything that's going on in our world, both in my personal life, family, and globally. And I'm looking at all this and I'm thinking, this is such a metaphor. Yes, it's a Baroque pearl, and this was made by Julie Miles, who has an extraordinary story herself, which you'll hear about in a couple of weeks. I was blessed to have her as a guest on my podcast. But I'm also wearing these bracelets that are black and white, and I'll get back to this, okay? I was getting dressed this morning, and this was not even intentional. And as many of you know, I'm usually in vibrant colors like pinks and especially purples, electric blue. I love color. Color talks to me. And speaking of color, we're really having I can't even think of the right word. I'm so distraught. I feel so sick, like physically ill about what's going on. And I don't have the answer. And that is upsetting as well. That makes my heart hurt. So I don't know if you saw my post yesterday. It's we can blank. So today, we are gathering here today. My intention today with Wednesday Wisdom Live and Every Soul Has a Story is that we fill in the blank together. What can we do? Because I believe there is a lot we can do. A lot. And I have compassion. I'm very frustrated by the looting. It's very disturbing on so many levels. I can't imagine that you might not feel the same. Jump in with your comments. I really want to hear from you today and always. And to me, peaceful protest, I fully support it. In fact, if it weren't for COVID, I'd be out there right now. And right now, speaking of in the now, it is pouring rain in South Florida. Welcome to our hurricane season. We just began a couple days ago. Yay. But it also is such a metaphor. What a backdrop. What a setting for, I feel like the sky is weeping. I know I am. I've cried. I have written like crazy. I've talked to lots of people. And I really wish I could come on here today with an answer. And I don't have an answer. What I do know to be true, are there ways we can change, we can make a change. So if we say we can and blank, so if you look at my post from this morning, it's a bulletin board, right? And I wrote on there, we can love, we can learn, right? We can unite, we can change. Those are some of my suggestions. And you know this, folks, this is not a simple issue on so many levels. I believe that hate is learned over generation to generation. Quite frankly, I experienced as a Jewish woman, and yes, I know I have white privilege. I had a really hard talk with my kids about this, actually all last week and this week, about what that means, and that, you know, I can't feel guilty for being born how I am, but I sure as heck can take responsibility for speaking up for people who can't speak up for themselves or are marginalized. And I have several friends. I went to North Miami Beach Senior High School. I had and continue to have friends from all walks of life. And, you know, we've had some really tough conversations, and I'm super grateful for friends of mine that can go there. Not everyone can. And that's where the peace comes in. You know, however, I was giving this a lot of thought, doing a lot of reading, intentionally reading from different news outlets, conservative, Republican, opinions. I really want to be able to discuss things with you from a fair perspective and to really get a balanced view, if balance even exists anymore, which again is another conversation for another day. There's so much. And what I am seeing over and over, you know, going back to the child analogy, when a toddler doesn't get their way, what do? Mommy, mommy, mommy. You don't answer. Then they get louder. They escalate. And I'm not comparing what's going on at all to a child. So that's not where I'm going with this. But I was giving this so much thought. And I'm all about peace and love and kindness. That's how I live. That is how I work in my professions. That is how I teach my children. That's how I exist on the planet. But what I thought about, like a toddler, right? Black people are not being heard. They're not being listened to, and that is not okay. And so whether you're white, black, Indian, Chinese, I can go on and on. Wherever you come from, whatever you identify with, we have got to unite. We are human beings. We need each other. And so if peaceful protest isn't working, I am not a believer in violence. In fact, that's what I was talking about after my son's graduation Sunday night. It physically made me ill. I was actually physically sick to my stomach. I'll spare you the details to see what's going on in our nation. But at the same time, I have compassion. My heart hurts because when you're not being heard, like a little kid, same thing. What do kids do? They amp up the volume. Understandably, it makes sense. So if peaceful protests aren't working and people are being discriminated against and killed and misjudged and so much more by the color of their skin, and there's been writing about this for years. Maya Angelou, Langston Hughes, oh my gosh, Toni Morrison, I can go on. Some of my favorite authors and people that I revere and I've learned so much from as a human. And that's peaceful. People going in the streets with signs. Then, you know what? And I can't believe I'm about to say this because I am probably one of the biggest pacifists I know. What else are you supposed to do? So people are getting attention, which is really important. And I think that what's happening is limoncello helps. Funny. Yeah, drinking helps. Yeah, you know, I don't disagree. Let's see. So Crazy Cat Mama, I'm going to pause, and I appreciate the commentary. It's common when groups of angry people gather together. Property damage is common. Someone once said that looting can be interpreted as evidence of human depravity. True. My problem with the looting is, how is that helping the cause? How is stealing and ruining property helping you get heard? So what's in the middle? That's my question also for today. Somebody very dear to me who I absolutely adore. He's been a dear friend. I've known him for almost 2 decades. He's now the president of Broward College here in Broward County. His name is Gregory Hale, and I'm very proud to call him a friend. And he's an extraordinary human. He is a black man. I say that because he just wrote something that I shared on Facebook a few days ago. And I'd like to read some portions of his writing to you. I'll also read to you something I wrote. It really hit home what Greg wrote. He's an extraordinary human being. And I only tell you he's a black American male because of the perspective that you will hear about. He has 2 young children. His wife Shay is also a dear friend of mine. I adore them, and I'm so grateful, Greg, for what you wrote. And I hope by me speaking some of your words that this will circulate around our country. Okay, so thank you, Greg. Your words, leadership, authenticity, and friendship are deeply valued. I'm immensely grateful for you. I appreciate what you wrote, and I'd like to read you just bits of it. It's a long letter. He wrote it from the perspective of his leadership position, of which he's extraordinary, as the president, like I said, at Broward College. But then he got personal, and he talked about collecting experiences. He said, like you, I collect various experiences and perspectives over time, and I learn from collection. Don't we all? Isn't that powerful? Oh, that's my editorial, sorry. He said, my collection yields optimism. I have immeasurable respect for the bravery on display every time a law enforcement officer wears his or her uniform. I have tremendous pride in our college's Institute of Public Safety. He also says, my very best friend of 25 years is a New York City police officer. I could not be prouder of him, and I trust him with my life. Greg also says that his collection of experiences also yields concern. And these are his words. I want you to listen very carefully. Whether I am leaving my home for a few days or just a few minutes, I tightly hug every member of my family because I am convinced that my return is uncertain. Recently, in my own neighborhood, a message labeled "Urgent Alert, Black Guy Roaming" circulated on a local social media site. I'm going to try and get through this without crying. This is what Greg said. I am still hesitant of jogging in the dark. When I do jog, I am sure to run the same route every day, reducing the likelihood that I appear to be roaming in my own neighborhood. In an abundance of caution, I always jog with my identification. I mean, this isn't okay. When he was in his previous role, he says, as vice president of the college, he was on a work-related drive. He was pulled over in his car, and the first question from the officer was of his white female colleague in the front passenger seat, who said, the police officer said to Greg, not to Greg, sorry, to his white female colleague, who I also know, "Ma'am, are you okay?" What? Seriously? But I'm not done. There's more. After I was asked to get out of the car and step away, she, meaning the white colleague, was further questions to ensure that Greg said who he said he was. And I want you to really listen carefully to this last sentence. And these are Greg's words, not mine. Perhaps most heart-wrenching for me personally, my 4-year-old daughter just asked me yesterday, May 30th, 2020, a few days ago, guys and gals, are Black people still slaves? Imagine your child asking you that. I'm pausing. I want you to sit with that for a moment. And Greg says this also, and this is the part that I so connected with on a deeper level. All of it I connected, but I don't understand what it's like to be a Black man or woman. And if any of you say you do, forgive me, but that's dishonest. If you are a white woman or a white man, and you shouldn't feel guilty about who you are, like I said, we didn't choose how we embody this lifetime. We are who we are. However, to say we understand and we get you, no, but we can have compassion. We can have empathy. And this is the part where I really understand. I relate to what Greg says, and I get it because it's how I also live. He said, I despise these conflicts of my existence, but I despise no one. While hate persists, it will not persist within me. It won't with me either, Greg. Hate shall not persist within us. It is not possible, and this goes back to the quote that I read by Nelson Mandela. Listen to this. Hate shall not persist within us. It is not possible to be consumed with hate and simultaneously be consumed with love necessary to usher you towards the opportunities and the lives you deserve. He's talking to his students. It is not possible to be consumed with hate and simultaneously love each other the way we must to manifest our mission to serve you. Our choice is love. And again, he is saying that in the role as I'm sorry, guys, I'm telling you, I am so distraught, I can barely speak. Broward College president. But I am repeating these words, Greg, and I love you for what you did and what you said and who you are and how you lead. And thank you. I hope by reading some of your words today that all of you, that I hope this goes viral. I hope this that you all share this message and this Wednesday wisdom. As I always do, many of my friends, colleagues, and just strangers have reached out to me over the weeks, and they've said they can't come on at noon, whether they're working or taking care of their children or whatever the reason. So I've been now recording this, saving it. You can access this at any time. It will be there forever on Facebook, on Instagram, and on my YouTube channel, which is Every Soul Has a Story. So I will be posting links throughout the week of different educational resources. Again, when I say we can, what can we do? And I want to hold you all accountable. Tell me, reach out, whether you do it right now or after Wednesday Wisdom is over. I've seen a lot of people, and I really appreciate the connection. It continues after I end the live. You can write to me publicly, privately, start a dialogue with me and with others, jump in. That's what Every Soul Has a Story is about, because every soul has a story and every soul matters. Black lives matter, white lives matter, gay, lesbian, Jewish, Muslim, Christian. We all matter. And I'm so worried and so sick about the divisiveness in our country. And I will be posting all kinds of links, educational messages. And I really believe, and I said this, and I'll share what I wrote with you that I posted a few days ago on Facebook. I really believe a lot of this starts in our home. So we have a responsibility, we have a duty as adults to teach our children. I feel we need to talk to them. We need to have the tough conversations. And they're not easy, but nothing easy equates with growth. Listen to what I said. Change doesn't happen in a comfortable way. It's not easy. Change is not easy. Whether it's something silly, I don't know, trying to lose weight. Not that that's silly, but relative to what we're discussing today, I think, like I said, I have a migraine. Okay, so people are dying. Who am I to complain, And then I thought also, look at our response to COVID. Look how our country reacted or didn't. Again, I'm not here to politicize. This is not a, this is not a Republican Democrat conversation. I'm not going there. That is not my intention, nor will it ever be. My intention is to connect and unite humanity through words, through verbal conversation like we're doing. And I was really thinking this morning also about how we are responding to COVID. All these people on the front lines, the EMTs, the doctors, the nurses, everybody. And we have a bigger pandemic, people. The pandemic of racism. That's gone viral. Let me rephrase that. It's not as if it's new. It's been going on for decades, for centuries, and it's not okay. It's never been okay. And shame on us. Shame on us as a country, as individuals. We can do this. We can use our voices. We can use our words. Going back to when I said to you how I have compassion. I don't agree with violence, and I never will. It's not okay. It's never been okay with me. It will never be okay. Like when I used to work with children with speech therapy, I'd say, use your words, right? Any of you that are teachers on here, Yet there's this other part of me that's thinking, well, gosh, how many years have people been using their words and they're not being heard? And I don't know what the answer is. I've been racking my brain. I wish I had an answer. But I do know part of the answer is love. And to me, I have compassion for those throwing bricks into glass buildings and stealing and lighting things on fire, because it's not okay and it stinks, and I will never condone that. But I do have compassion because these people that are doing this are feeling like they're not heard. They got to amp it up. They have to amplify the message. And, it is so, I think one of the most toxic things in the world, what I think is a virus, is indifference. To be indifferent is to not care. And to not care is part of this pandemic. And I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about the pandemic of racism. I'm going to say it like it is. Bigotry. Judgment, like we talked about a few weeks ago. I didn't know when I wrote about judgment and when I discussed it with you and when that was our theme and conversation for Wednesday Wisdom that I'd be here talking about judgment in relation to riots. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And looting is not peaceful protesting. Why is stealing okay? No, it's not. But again, I go back to love. I have love and compassion because people have been holed up in their houses for weeks. You don't know their situation. What if they're in an abusive home? What if they grew up, like I said, when I posted my graphic for this morning, as always, as a kind of a conversation starter for Wednesday Wisdom Live, the reason I do this, I'm hoping you come thinking about what we can discuss, what we can do as a community, as a conversation that I keep trying to foster here online and through my writing. What can we do? So, like I started in the beginning, I believe, as my post says this morning, we can blank. We can, what? We can, fill in the blank with me. We can unite. We can love. We can learn. We can educate. We can unite and we can change. And it takes all of that to make changes. And it takes courage. It takes a heck of a lot of courage. Funny, I have all these stones. I have inspirational quotes I've had around my home for, over 20 years. My son used to say, Mom, that's like positive propaganda. So, and it's funny, but now I hear him repeating some things, so I'm grateful. Hopefully something's sinking in. Anyway, one of the things, I also collect a lot of stones that have meaning for me, and I find inspiring. Everything I have in my home, in my life, has meaning. So I found this stone. It occurred to me, my God, it's black and white also. Interesting, right? What does it say? Courage. I know it's backward, and now it's upside down, but courage. It takes courage. It takes courage to change. It takes courage to do the right thing. It takes courage to speak up. And I also collect hearts, and I have this black heart I've had for years. It's hematite. I love hematite because it's grounding for me. When I feel anxious, it's calming for me. But I thought about showing you this today because we need love. We need courage and we need love. And I think that combination, to me, this fills in the blank of we can have courage and we can have love. And then we have to educate, learn. I was playing around with a word before I posted this morning's message, the word accept and coexist. And I took that off of the image because that's what I want for our nation and for our world. But then I thought really long and hard about this, and I thought, well, how can we coexist and accept until we have courage to love, have courage to change? And how can that all happen unless we listen to each other? And that's what's happening. Because peaceful protests are not being heard, that's why people are amplifying their message. And it's so disturbing and it's so scary to me. But we can't sit here and be immobilized and say, oh, well, I can't do anything. I'm sorry, forgive me, that's a load of crap. You can. You have a voice. We all are born with a larynx, if I can go back into my speech mode. Use your voice. Use it in your home. Speak to your children. If you grew up in a family with multi-generational racism, talk to your grandparents. If you're lucky enough to have great-grandparents that are still alive, sit them down. It is not easy. Change is not easy. But it's necessary. We need it. We need you. I encourage every single one of you to get out there and speak to people. It's so important. Let me jump in here real quick. So Jay, somebody just said, let me read something. That's right. Yeah, get out there and vote. That's right. So Jay just said, good dialogue. In addition to empathy, we need action. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We need to ensure that law enforcement professionals who dishonor their fellow officers by violating rules and norms of decency are held accountable and not allowed to have 5, 10, 15 infractions pile up. And it's caught on video. The bad seeds must be rooted out early and accountable. But I'll also tell you, like I said earlier, Jay, My cousin's one of the good guys. That's another form of judgment, not racism per se, but, he's a white police officer for over almost 25 years here in Broward County. And in fact, he stood up for something a couple years ago. Really, talk about courage. Somebody he works with didn't do the right thing, and he spoke up. And I won't continue on this path with this, but my point is, he's a good guy. So not everybody that is, let's say, a police officer or a black person or what you put in anything, not everybody is everything. Not everybody, that's where judgment comes in, and that's the whole basis of racism. And it's not acceptable, and it's not okay, and it needs to stop. I'd like to read you something that I wrote and posted on Facebook a few days ago. It was on Saturday. And if you see behind me, I have yellow flowers. And this is what I was referencing. I think it was my way of just trying to elevate and uplift my spirit. Didn't work too long, but I felt like I wanted to read this to you today. It just feels relevant. I was hoping that this violence and just cacophonous calamity of chaos, and it feels almost like anarchy. I know it's a strong word, but gosh, it's like, it's so much, right? It just hurts my heart. So this is what I wrote, and I'd like to read it to you. I've been gazing at these yellow buds and watching as they've gradually blossomed. Their beauty is a striking contrast to the ugliness smearing across our nation. The word coexist keeps popping into my head, and how life is a series of contrasting moments. I have literally, as I've said repeatedly to you all, I've literally felt sick to my stomach about what's going on in our country, the violence, the hate, the racism, and so much more. I spoke to my children. I started talking about empathy, equality, inclusiveness, equity, and kindness, and what it means to be a decent human being. As I looked into their eyes, it hit me that what might have become a mini sermon was actually unnecessary. They often say to me and ask, "Mom, why is everything a lesson?" I get this all the time. And my response is, because it is. Everything in life is a lesson. I just turned 46 years old yesterday. They're 18 and almost 16. I'm a lifelong learner, and I feel, and I'll get back to that, so one moment. I'm proud of my son and daughter. They understood immediately. So what was about to become a sermon, I was able to stop myself. I zipped it and I listened. We shared deeply, we shared openly, and we had some tough, heart-wrenching conversations. So why am I posting photos of roses? And I'm referencing what I wrote about these flowers on Saturday. Nature grounds me, just like this hematite black heart that I showed you earlier. And colors impact my mood and perspective. Yellow, for me, symbolizes hope, happiness, friendship, positivity, and healing. Our nation needs this more now than ever right now. And perhaps you too need some love and light. And I wanted to read that to you because I think it's it's honest, it's from my heart as always. I think it's a good closing for our conversation today. I am so grateful. Thank you for showing up here again and joining the conversation. Thank you for listening. And I encourage you, as we close, you need to fill in this blank. I encourage you to fill in the blank. Like I posted this morning, we can. I encourage you to think about what can we do. We can vote. We can read. We can, if you don't know enough about racism and you don't know about what it's like to, like I read earlier from Gregory Hale, my dear friend and our leader here in Broward County, then read. Encourage your children to read. Have the tough conversations like I did. Because this is abhorrent. It is unacceptable. It is vile. It is not how we live in our home. But unfortunately, just even 15 minutes from my house, there were riots and just there's so much going on, and I ask that we come from a place of love, from compassion and kindness. And you know what? The most important thing I can encourage you to do, look in the mirror. If you catch yourself saying things like, well, I have a friend that's black, I'm not racist, that's a load of crap. Give me a break, okay? Seriously. You know, that's almost like there's like overt and obvious racism, and then there's a more subtle. That's something, listen for that. Have tough conversations and call your friends. If you're a white man or woman, call your friends that are black. Have conversations with them. Say, how can I support you? What can I do? How can I help educate my fellow friends and family? It starts in our hearts, and then it burgeons out like those flowers. It opens up into our home, and we've got to do the work, people. This is crazy that this is still going on, and it makes me sick. So like I said earlier, we have the COVID pandemic. Look how we're responding to that. This pandemic has gone viral for way too many years, way before COVID ever came. And now we have a double pandemic that's come to the forefront that is escalating. It's like a fever, like this sick, toxic, just sludgy, and clearly very contagious hate. And please, I'm asking you, come from love. Whether it's reading, talking to people, voting, this looks lots of different ways, and I am not going to judge in any way, shape, or form. But I am imploring you, we can do better. We need to do better. We must do better. And the standard quo, what's going on right now, is not okay. So from my heart to yours, let's continue this conversation on social media. You can also always, like I tell you, please email me, reach out directly, Dara@everysoulhasastory.com. You can also please go to my online home, daralavan.com. I've been sending weekly blogs and hopefully thought-provoking and inspirational messages for 3 years, so you can subscribe. And please tell your friends and family. I've been hesitating for many months to even talk about this, but I keep being encouraged that I need to tell people about it, so here it is. I also have a podcast now, I think many of you know. Thrilled to release the next person. The interview, the episode. She has an extraordinary journey. And also Sunday meditations, which I hope brings you peace amongst the chaos, amongst the strife. Every Sunday I put out a nature meditation video. Hope to see you again next week, next Wednesday. Thank you for your time, thank you for your heart, and thank you for showing up. I encourage you to show up for your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your family, your strangers, and that all starts with you. So from my heart to yours, sending you love and light and peace, and wishing you a meaningful week. Thank you. Thank you for being here.